100x, this is the entire episode in 15 seconds. Everybody is chasing that sweet, sweet nectar of play to airdrop. But could this potentially be the most fun iteration of the meta thus far? The Beacon is a collision of 3 game genres at once. Think dungeon crawler like Hades, world builder like Animal Crossing, and a social MMO like RuneScape with your friends. And then you've got the crypto aspects, but they're not just going for a singular in-game tokenized economy. They are meticulously crafting an ecosystem-wide asset. How do these worlds mesh with the added benefit of being powered by Treasure and built on Arbitrium? We're getting after it with the founder and CEO of Treasure himself, Mr. Diego. Let's go. This is the 100x podcast, and you're listening to 100x Gaming, where we sit down with the most awesome games building in Web3. We have got Diego, the founder of The Beacon, coming in hot. Thank you for joining us, Diego. I would love if you just want to introduce what you guys are building, the game, the idea, the world, so that we can get deep into it.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. My name is Diego. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of The Beacon.
Before we dig into everything this episode has to offer, we want to highlight the awesome partners who sponsor this podcast and make it possible for us to work full-time on 100x. They're legends, and we appreciate them for supporting us. Let's talk about Reactor, a proof-of-work blockchain that introduces a brand new economic model, deep-in mining software, a gaming distribution platform, the RKR token, and their game, Minions of Steel, that's proving their thesis by seamlessly integrating proof-of-work token mining with gaming. Through allowing players to mine with their own GPU while playing, not only do they essentially make gaming free, they make software free, and they present an AI-proof income for everyone. If you want to take a glimpse into the future and get there early, explore Reactor's ecosystem at the link below. Crypto does not need to be complicated. Cadena is building the human layer of blockchain by giving the power back to the people and allowing them to build products that make a difference for humanity. Founded by ex-JP Morgan and SEC blockchain leads, Cadena develops easy-to-understand, human-readable tools and solutions that focus on the long-term development of the space, not just short-term gains. Simply put, if we want real, regular people to enter and enjoy Web3, Cadena is making a way. To learn more, check out Cadena.io, follow them on Twitter at Cadena_IO, or watch our episode with them.
And for those who don't know, well, The Beacon is essentially a fantasy action roguelike RPG game that has MMORPG aspects and features a fantastic high-fidelity pixel art style. So I guess that a good way of illustrating it is that it's a blend of 3 game genres, or 3 games, so to speak. One would be a roguelike like Hades, a game that has fast action-packed gameplay, procedural generation, and it's very it's very entertaining to play and to watch as well. The second would be a game like Stardew Valley, where you can create your own space within our world, have your own house decorated with the things you have, with the things you live in the dungeons, and invite your friends over and everything. And the third one would be a game that has the social aspects of a game like World of Warcraft, where you have dungeons with co-op functionality, PvP arenas, and most importantly, cities with online support, in the sense that you can be hanging in the city and interacting with other players. And everything is blended in with blockchain in a manner. So that's the overall gist of the game. It's a blend of 3 game genres in that sense.
With this idea in mind of how you guys are building the 3 different ways of approaching the gameplay, for someone who maybe is going to try the game for the first time through the campaign that you guys are running right now, or when it officially launches, how would you explain the gameplay loop and what people can expect when they first jump into the Beacon?
So essentially, the game right now, there's 2 things. One is that we have like a live demo that is like a very simplistic version of the game, where they, just as they go in, they go through a dungeon and they can see the combat mechanics and the gameplay, and then they can jump into the house builder. But what we have running at this very precise moment is an initiative called the New Frontiers Quest, which is a blend, is for us a novel way of doing play to airdrop / play to whitelist for our community, where most of the activity happens in a web app where there's you can see the design yourself probably after this, but essentially it's a web app that looks like a talent tree that you find in most MMORPGs. And within this tree, there's different nodes that you need to cover to be able to unlock the next path, right? And each of these nodes is a mission, and most of these missions involve the game. So you go into a mission, and then the game client pops up, and you're going to experience either a story mission or a combat mission that is very straightforward for you to try some of the aspects of the game right away.
Yeah, and I was telling Matthew before this that I think this is honestly one of the most creative ways that I've seen anyone approach a play to airdrop / play to whitelist in the gaming space before. Because a lot of times it's really just like, okay, here's a web page. These are the tasks that we want you to complete.
Right.
Click a verify button, and all of a sudden you're getting points. But the fact that we actually got to try a little bit of the game, see what the world is actually going to look like, start meeting some of the characters that are going to get introduced in the actual lore of the game, I thought that was really unique because it made the experience of actually going through these quests not feel like a job, but feel like more of an actual experience that we're actually enjoying. So I think if you guys haven't tried it out, we'll probably put gameplay alongside you while you're explaining that so people can get a visual representation of what that looks like. But yeah, honestly, kudos to you guys for that.
Genuinely reminds me of like, it reminds me of, you mentioned that it's like any RPG, just the quest board itself, like feels like a game. And I have not seen anyone, and this is not a dig at anyone else, but I have not seen anyone create a play to airdrop mechanism that was actually a game in and of itself. Usually it's like go play the game to earn things, but not like, hey, this is actually gamified in and of itself. And I think that is really, really cool.
I mean, that was part of the idea, right? For us, I mean, we put plenty of effort and love into this and to making sure that the experience was enjoyable for people, right? Because at least what I have seen in the space so far was that most of these campaigns, like play to airdrop and so, didn't feel like were not entertaining. They felt more like a chore rather than a really enjoyable experience. And we wanted to change that. And I think that we achieved that to some degree with the experience that we crafted, where everything is very immersive, tied to our lore, with fun, easy to do missions that introduce the gameplay and the story and the lore, and that have you looking forward towards the next steps of the game. And also kickstarting our ecosystem and rewarding the users for their time in some manner. So yeah, we try to differentiate in that manner. And really, since we're a game, we really want to put the game first and use the other initiatives as a second thing.
Yeah, it's like a demo on all fronts. I mean, it's essentially a demo of each piece of the game and a demo of the blockchain ecosystem behind the scenes. When this period is over, when the play to airdrop has ended and the game is fully live and people are just playing it, do you think, I'm curious, just like getting a little more depth about each piece there, the PvE content. So you've got like that 3-pronged approach. You've got the raiding dungeons, killing the villains. That is fairly self-explanatory. I've seen like a pretty significant amount of gameplay of that piece. That looks like fun. It looks really quick. It's not slow paced. I'm curious though about the other two pieces, because you're essentially, like you said, you're blending genres. You're taking 3 genres that maybe have never been morphed together. And it feels like you're playing Hades and Stardew Valley and like, dude, it's like back to my childhood, like Club Penguin or something, all at the exact same time. And that's great.
Yeah.
I've not seen anyone do that. How do you balance having like the fast-paced, combat-based gameplay with, hey, come build your cool home, come hang out with your friends? What do those mechanics look like? Maybe a little more in depth of, hey, game is fully live. It's not a demo anymore. What can people look forward to with those two?
So I think that it targets like different types of players in a way. So the dungeons, they exist and they have like the roguelike mechanics, right? But these get increasingly harder as people progress and there's different levels of difficulty. And down the line, there's also a competitive ladder within it, not only in solo gameplay, but also in co-op mode, right? So you can go like very hardcore if you want to, or really like try to play like as you play Hades in a way and enjoy it. But to the players that are most tranquil, so to say, if that's the right word, it's something along the lines that, well, you can also build your world within it, right? You can create, if you complete dungeons, you will start earning cosmetics for your house and for your character that you can use to decorate your house. You can expand your house, and subsequently we will add even ways to expand your yard and more things, so you can build your world in a Stardew Valley manner. And the other one is like the social side that most MMORPGs have, where you get to hang out with people and in the cities. Like if you ever played World of Warcraft, you have Stormwind there, and there's a ton of people there because most of the game loops happen within it. And we'll have like the same functionality where you can interact socially and trade, and that's in the same place where you will form parties with other people and go into dungeons together. But there's also going to be other competitive aspects like PvP arenas, for instance, 1v1 or 3v3. And it's a blend of of those three things in a manner that's, of course, like not as complete as each game. I mean, it's not as deep as Stardew Valley is in terms of customization or as interactive as World of Warcraft is, but it has like the core components, right? all this spinning around the roguelike gameplay that can get very, very challenging and very, very complex, especially in the co-op mode, because the idea of the co-op mode is that you enter with up to 4 people. And as you do so, the dungeon gets much harder. The mechanics require coordination, and well, you can increase the difficulty in a similar manner to how World of Warcraft does it with their mythic dungeons. There's like increasing levels of difficulty, and people will even be able to compete against other teams for who clears the dungeon faster or with a higher score and so on. So there's like many ways and a really broad amount of things that people can do within the game. We of course want to add like more mechanics, like, I don't know, for instance, like fishing or more like social stuff rather than just like the hardcore gameplay aspect for people to enjoy it.
With that idea in mind, I do want to build up and ask this question here, because with the different mechanics and the different game modes that you guys plan to have in the game, what it sounds like from the get-go, do you guys have a target player in mind, or do you guys feel like you will have enough in each specific mode to entice maybe different people that will only want to go ahead and build like that Stardew Valley home, build your nice little house with your yard, and enough content in the PvP stuff to invite those competitive players who just want to go ahead and compete and don't really care about like the house building aspect? Do you feel like each mode will have enough to invite different kinds of players, or are you looking for someone specifically?
So I think that each mode will have enough, but of course, I mean, the game is still under development, and there's like still a ton of feedback that we will gather in the following months. My hunch is that the online side will get increasingly more popular, maybe the competitive side as well. And that doesn't mean that we will leave the house builder part behind, but I think that it's going to be mostly like the online component / competitive component that is going to really keep the game rolling on and on in the future. Now, there's a few more features that we want to add to really enhance the experience, and this is structured a bit after the main game release, which is ideally on December of this year, the global game release, which is that we use our own map builder to build the dungeons that are within the beacon. Like, I usually like build them myself. We want to give the same map builder to the users so that they can create their own maps and their own stories within and allow people to join in. And with Web3, there's even a potential way of tokenizing those and even share royalties with the creators if they have successful creations, in a manner like similar to how how Warcraft 3 have their map builder and Dota 2 came out of it. You grant the map builder to users for them to also try to build their stuff. And we're pretty excited about that feature because we don't know what can come out of it. There's plenty of potential in that sort of things. So the game itself has this mechanics, but down the line we want to keep on expanding it to add more player input or capacities for players to get creative.
Okay, so if I understand, what you hope is that the co-op PvP aspect, the competitive side, is the hook that keeps people around and that keeps the game going. But sooner rather than later, hopefully, all the other game modes have enough that maybe those cozy players that really only want to go ahead and build have enough content to be able to just enjoy that aspect of the game.
Right.
That sounds about right.
Right.
Awesome. The other thing I wanted to go ahead and ask you is, I see you guys are building in Web3 and you guys are building in blockchain. Was this game always intended to be a blockchain game, a Web3 game? Was it always built with that idea in mind, or did you guys start off in Web2 and then maybe saw that some of the ideas that you guys wanted to accomplish were better suited for Web3? What was that background like?
In that sense, I mean, me and my co-founder, which is also my brother, we always wanted to build an MMORPG. But of course, that takes plenty of time and it's very challenging. And when we found out about the Web3 gaming side, so to say, I mean, I've been into crypto ever since 2017, but I never considered the gaming aspect until 2020 or so, or 2021. And that's when I started to see like the first iterations of games that we had back then, which to me weren't really games, but more of an excuse to use the blockchain in a gamified manner. And we figured like, hey, we can actually create a really good game in here that has the best of both worlds, like the benefits of blockchain, but is an actual game that people really enjoy and play and would perhaps even pay to play or to pay to get cosmetics within, as it happens in most free-to-play games like, Dota 2 or other examples. I don't have anything else on the top of my mind. But that was the idea. We just figured that blockchain enhances what games can do and their boundaries, and it can add extra value to features like cosmetics, for instance, or features that are socially driven. So that's where we figured that this blend of 3 game genres made sense within this space. It also was, of course, more reasonable to execute than an MMORPG because MMORPGs take, 5 years to be created.
I mean, one of my favorite things about gaming inside of crypto is that it has been so genre bending and genre breaking almost, that we're seeing
Mhm.
just new genres develop because people are taking pieces from ones they like and mixing it with pieces from another. And you've got like just these genre blenders happening, and it's really
Mhm.
cool. I'm curious though, you mentioned a second ago about how you guys were in crypto from like
Mhm.
2017 onwards and then started thinking about the
Mhm.
game in like 2020. Is your background crypto and Web3? Were you a game developer before, or was it crypto first and then gaming? Was it
So
gaming first and then crypto?
we've always been gamers ever since we grew up. But I'm a software developer in that sense, and we started as regular software in that. But we had through our life like different projects where we had servers of different games like Tibia and Minecraft, and we had reasonable success within those within those niches, so to say.
Yep.
And we always wanted to create a game. So, but it wasn't that viable back then. Especially we're originally from Chile, which isn't like the country that has like the most opportunities for you to start a game.
Right.
So we used our software development knowledge as well as the crypto knowledge that we had because we were users and as developers, we at some point also had back in 2020, like a software development company that had a crypto branch, and we offered services there. So we knew our way through blockchain. And we blended like all the skills, the software development, the knowledge we had about games, and the crypto part of it to say, hey, we actually can create a game, and we've been successful so far, at least with these previous experiences. So why don't we go give it a shot and really create a game now? We can go all in on this, and that's when we decided to just leave the software development company behind and just focus fully on the beacon. Essentially, this was at the beginnings of 2022, around March of 2022.
That's epic. That's really cool. That's a great story. And I think I resonate with that a lot. A lot of people don't know behind our podcast, my brother is one of the co-owners, and he's very involved in DeFi. If I said his name, DeFi investors like, oh yeah, we know who he is. But one of
Nice.
our like long-term goals is, hey dude, at some point we would love to actually work on and build a game and launch a game. And that just like was behind the scenes for years. And we just almost stumbled our way into Web3 gaming, a very similar story to you guys, but I'm probably 5 years behind you with that. That's a really cool story with your brother. I'm curious specifically because you guys were both like software developers who like games, but your like origin story in this space, you were here for crypto before you were here for the games themselves. Because when you were here, the gaming didn't really exist. We were here in a similar time where like
Right.
we always joke that they were just
2017.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. That they were Ponzi schemes with extra steps. That was most of the games in the space years ago. Now we actually get to see cool games. As far as like being in crypto and creating a game, what elements of the game are actually on chain? Is the gameplay on chain? Is it just the
Mhm.
NFTs? Is it tokens? Like what
It's
of the
it's
blockchain are you guys utilizing?
mhm. So what we're doing right now is that most cosmetics within the game are NFTs that can be withdrawn. Currently, the game doesn't have any token. The experiences that we've released so far have been mostly like scope dungeon missions that people can try, and they can obtain NFT cosmetics with limited editions. Most of the gameplay happens within our servers because, to be honest, that really makes sense for a live action game, and especially a game that requires networking. And we figured that there are parts of the blockchain that really benefit the game, but not everything needs to be on chain. Like if you are a legit company that can be trusted, and we're fully doxed, and we intend to have like a real business in here, we realize that most of the logic could happen within our own game, and then we give the specific parts that blockchain really adds benefit into the game, which for us is mostly assets and subsequently, depending on how things go, maybe in parts of the economy. But we're not even structuring, for instance, with the beacon to have a token interaction within the game itself, within the game's economy itself. The reason being that you really need a very strong economic loop to be able to sustain that, and it is not even necessary. So we, instead of going through the path that most games did, which was release a token and then create a game around it, we created a game and then see what aspects of blockchain can really make the experience better for the end user. And that's what has brought us success so far, I think, because we don't have depth in the terms of the design, and we can add benefits as we go if we have a viable product, right?
I think this is a very interesting point because it ties directly to the question I was about to ask. And it's in the sense of the game, The Beacon, being a free to play title. I think one of the things that you said really ties that in together. A lot of games dropped a token and now are trying to scramble and figure out how is that economy actually going to work now that the token is live. People have the token, people are speculating on this token, but they have no gameplay yet. They haven't figured out if the sinks and the faucets actually
Right.
will work and make it sustainable. How do you guys actually, now that you guys are in the place where you guys are going to have the gameplay coming soon, people are going to be able to play and start grinding it, how are you guys planning to implement that to make sure that in a free-to-play ecosystem, the token doesn't break things and people aren't just able to farm it out and then break the economy before it really gets a chance to start going?
Right. So the way that we're structuring our token, and it's still scheduled for the future, post-game release, because there's still some features that have been built as we speak, right? Our token is more of an ecosystem token in that manner, in the sense that we are going to have more than one game than the Beacon. The Beacon is our first title, the main one, what we're really working full hands on right now. But the way that we built our systems, it'll be easy for us from now on to create subsequent games and build, let's say, a universe around this in a similar manner how you have, let's say, Warcraft, and Warcraft has like several games like Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft, etc. We want to have like the same thing. And the idea is to have that that the assets and things you have within the Beacon can coexist in these different games within this universe, right? And the token comes into play as a ecosystem asset more than something that's directly involved within the Beacon's economy, right? And we are taking this approach because we know the hardships of creating a sustainable economy, right? But if you limit that economy mostly to the game loop itself and the cosmetics within it, and maybe some items within it, then you can start figuring out if it makes even sense to add a token within the economy. But in our case, what we're doing is that we're building a game that's meant for the masses. The Beacon's global release is scheduled to go in both ways, Web 2 and Web 3 at the same time. And if you have that, then you have a game that appeals to the masses and has its own revenue streams, like most games do, then you can add those revenue streams into the token in some way to really benefit the game instead of making the game dependent on the token. So in that sense, what I'm trying to say is that the token is more of an ecosystem thing, more tied to the studio rather to the game itself. If we define at some point that there's value to be added, no danger in adding the parts of the token to the game loop, then we will do so, but very carefully. We've been very, very, very reluctant in that sense to add any token interactions or promises or any allocation or anything in relation to the game for that precise manner, because we know how hard it is to execute a really sustainable economic loop, especially if you have outside forces. Let's say, I don't know, speculators that can really come in from outside and, well, move things, right? But if you limit that, then you can actually manage it. So that's the reason, and for the side of the token, it's a kickstart to our ecosystem more than the game's economy itself.
I think this part of the conversation really needs to be highlighted. And I think this is a part that a lot of people, not only gamers, but anyone else who is looking at Web3 gaming as an investment or anything like that, this is the type of stuff people really should get excited about, because it's not often the way I have a team here, a CEO or a founder of a game, talking about these kind of things in a sense that actually makes sense. Right now, a lot of times it feels like, dang, tokens are just being launched for the sake of launching tokens. It seems like a mechanism to get people excited, to get people hyped about a game, but there's no real follow-up plan as to what happens after the token launches. Now everybody has all these tokens, the price has gone down to zero, everybody is complaining, and the game hasn't even been out yet. You guys are saying, you know what, let's avoid all that headache, let's make a good game, figure out the gameplay loop, the sinks and the faucets, and how it all work properly, and to even make sense to even add a token into that ecosystem. So that's something to really get excited about. With that idea in mind, in terms of the actual free-to-play aspect of it, where do, for example, asset holders who do hold these characters, these pets, these items, what benefit do they have compared to someone that's completely free to play and isn't even trying to play with any of the assets? What's that difference like?
So the game has more than one kind of assets. They're like different rarities, right? The way that we're structuring things from now, and of course this is something that might change in the future depending on feedback and how things are applied, is that the game is free to play, but in order for you to obtain NFTs from the game, you need to have a character, which is in a way a very accessible asset that costs, at least the original mint was $40 or so, and we plan to keep like the same price in a way in the future. And it's going to be those characters that can obtain NFTs to be withdrawn from the game. Free players can also obtain cosmetics and different assets and a ton of things, but essentially the whole experience, but they're not able to withdraw those NFTs as and extract value out of it, right? Because otherwise you will get bought to infinity and essentially, well, there's no value in the assets anymore, right? That's the way that it's been structured right now. But I do think that there might be more interactions in the future, more ways of doing it, more compelling at the same time for free players besides that. The thing is, the way that the market is now, then the way that we're structuring to release the beacon is that it's going to have like these two versions, so to speak, right. The Web3 version and the Web2 version, which is going to be ideally listed on Epic Games, Steam, and the App Store with its mobile version as well. And you can have like these two audiences that coexist separately but blend in the online side. And well, if you have that, then you can invite the Web2 users in, like, hey, there's also the Web3 component if you want to try it out and explore it, and then explain the benefits as well as what are the constraints to be able to generate those items if they want to participate, right? But the idea is that most of the experience is that it's a free-to-play game, right?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think that makes a lot of sense. I have a question I've just been mulling over. You made a comment before about how you're essentially like long-term, big vision. So not right now. Right now the focus is Beacon, but big vision, you guys are crafting an entire universe. And in that universe, this token is an ecosystem asset. It's not an in-game economy that's designed to just power the beacon. Like we will plug it into the beacon where it makes sense, nowhere else. And then with future things that we develop inside of this world, we might plug it in other ways that make sense. I have a question I have two questions really about that concept. And the first is, how do you guys keep, how do you balance it in a way that plugging it into one game doesn't break it in a way that like, hey, if you have, say 5 years from now, you guys have 4 games inside of the Beacon ecosystem. Oh shoot, the economy broke in one of them. And that's not like irreparable. I've played some MMOs where the economy breaks for like 6 months and they've got to figure out how to fix it. So the economy breaks. How do you keep it from breaking all of the other places where the token is plugged in inside of other games?
Right. I mean, it's a very good question, but it's a question that's also pretty far ahead, so it's very hard to estimate how it would work, right? In the sense that if we haven't yet even taken the decision of implementing like the token or within the economic loops, we still like haven't figured, okay, if we implement it, how are we going to stop it from breaking when the economic loop of the main game is like not really ready yet, right? I think that to me, the best way to answer to this, because I don't have a precise answer, is we will only introduce the tokens and the Web3 side that can alter the game's functionality with tremendous care once the game is really out and tested in a way and live.
Right.
And then we'll see if it makes sense to do it. We won't do it just for the sake of it. So maybe it will never even happen, right? That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's fair.
What we're trying to do here is that have the game really be good first, good enough for Web2 people to really try it and love it and maybe even want to spend on it. And then you start figuring out like where to add tokens and all and the other part of it within it.
Yeah, that makes sense. The only other question I had while we were on that piece, and that I think that's a solid answer, pristine. Different side, not even to do with the token, but just a look inside Diego's mind. You've mentioned like, ooh, we want to create a world here. We want deep lore. I'm someone who obsesses over the lore. Like if you suck me into like one game, dude, I don't care what the genre is. I will play every game you get in that ecosystem. I will read every comic book. I'll watch every show. Like I'm definitely the obsessive fan. And so I like the idea of universes when they're done well. Do you have like any far off, this is not like holding you to it, but like, hey, maybe this is something that would be fun to create in this ecosystem?
It's in terms of universe and lore. I think it's an interesting question. I think that what we need to do first is like to nail the beacon's lore first. That is, let's say if the beacon is what kickstarts this whole universe, the beacon's lore needs to be on spot in order to be able to keep on expanding that narrative. We're still, of course, like working plenty on the lore. If I can give you like a small glimpse of what the lore is like and what's like the setting behind the beacon, I'll just summarize it very, very briefly. It's essentially, there's two prime elements in this universe. One is called Lux and the other one is called Umbra. Lux represents order and what is known and light in a way, and Umbra represents chaos and darkness and all those things. But it's not that one or either is bad and the other is good. Is that both actually complement. Like chaos is the things is like the force where new things come from, and order is essentially in a way what actually puts the world in place. But what happened in the world of the beacon is that at some point that's unknown to the player, this balance broke and the world got covered in Umbra essentially. And there's only one last bastion remaining of humanity, which is called Altaris, which has a beacon within it that emits a protective light that protects the city from what's outside in that sense. And part of the journey of the player is that this beacon light is flickering and its force is starting to fade. So players need to find a way to really restore the beacon itself and then keep on expanding through the world to retake it from the grasp of Umbra. That's like the layer, the setting in a way. And we of course want to expand that and make it way deeper. We have like a lore master. I'm not the best at lore building, but that's like the idea in a way.
His job, yeah. That's fantastic. I think it's rad. Go ahead, Caesar.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm guessing that beacon that you talk about is that the beacon that's in the logo, the little one that we're gonna have to try to save.
Right. And in the new, so the thing is that after we're running this campaign called the New Frontiers, and by the end of it, which is like 3 weeks from now, we will release a new client version. What we have live is like the old demo version, like even the quests that are right now, old demo version, and we will introduce a new client with the actual really cool stuff that we've been building for the last year. And even in the login screen, you can see like the city from afar with the beacon, and you actually start to get right away what's like the theme behind the game. It is very hard to explain that with a limited demo, right? But with the main client, it's easier.
Dang, I'm excited to try the new demo, because even with the one that we have on the website and the old build, I'm really excited because it just runs so smoothly. I've honestly played a lot of website like games on the websites and things like that, and especially when you embed them as like client things like that, they don't run very well.
Yeah,
so the fact that I have no issues with the beacon is truly amazing. And now that you brought in the sort of the conversation to the New Frontiers, this campaign that you guys are running for the next 3 weeks, can you give us a little bit more details for people listening who maybe have not even signed up yet? What is the New Frontiers? What is this Rite of Passage NFT that people are going to be sort of playing for? What are all the details, and why should people get involved?
Perfect. So the New Frontiers is for us like this noble way of introducing a play to airdrop / play to mint campaign for our users. It has 3 phases, and right now phase 1 is live, and it lasts for about 3 weeks. So it ends like 20 days from now or so. And essentially, it's an activity that takes place within our web app, and it's structured as this talent tree kind of figure with different nodes that compose different paths, right? And each of these paths is a mission. Some of them involve the game story, others involve combat missions, and others are more socially driven, like the usual stuff. And the idea is that as players finish missions, they earn prestige, which is essentially similar to a point system. And with prestige, they're able to do 2 things. One is to open chests, and chests in this case are particularly valuable because they have different drops. And the most important of them all are, limited edition NFTs for this event. Arbitrium tokens that we have from one of our grants. Arbitrium is one of our main partners, so there's 150,000 tokens to give away. And lastly, items are called medallions, there's 5 of them, and each of them involves future token allocation. The rarer the medallion, the higher the token allocation that it gets, right? And the idea is that the tree is structured in 3 paths: the main path and the accessory paths, which are story path and combat path. Which are optional, but they grant you the highest amount of prestige. So it's better if you complete them, you get more chests. And also, as you complete missions, you rank up. And the higher your rank, the higher the odds of getting the Writ of Passage and whitelist for the event that we'll have after the event ends. So that's mostly how most of this works. In order to qualify to be whitelisted, to be drafted for the whitelist, you just need to complete the 7th node of the main path, which is somewhat easy to do. But the users that complete everything have much of a higher chance to gain the whitelist. They have a higher rank as well. They can open more chests for more potential token allocation via medallions. And there's also going to be some airdrop amongst the ranks. So users are really, there are plenty of incentives to participate in that sense. But the idea of this is to introduce a fun questing system that really also introduces our game and really allows the people to experience our game. And most people that have done it so far have really liked it. I mean, the experience so far has been something that they are enjoying and looking forward to, right? And the Rite of Passage NFT is valuable because of two things. The mint will have, it will take place after phase one ends, which is like two weeks from now. And essentially, the Rite of Passage has inherent value because each of them has guaranteed token allocation. But they also grant access to phases 2 and 3 of the New Frontiers quest, which will happen a few weeks after phase 1 ends. And phases 2 and 3, what we're going to do with them is that phase 2 will add new features of the game, right, as quests for people with the Rite of Passage to try. And the users that try them and that provide feedback and help us balance the hard-to-balance aspects of the game, like co-op mode and PvP, they will be able to upgrade their Rite of Passage and get more token rewards for completing those quests. And phase 3 operates in a similar manner. So in a way, the Rite of Passage NFT it's like an early pass to try what's next to help us balance the game and provide feedback. And if you help us, we will give you extra token rewards because you're helping us craft the game. And that's essentially the main reasoning behind it. Phases 2 and 3 will also have instances for everybody to try, but it's going to be reserved primarily for the Rite of Passage holders, which we intend to align with the game's vision and essentially having them helping us with building the game. Right? That's pretty much the idea.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I mean, anyone that knows me as a gamer, as a player, knows that anytime there's any sort of gotcha mechanism involved, I'm just hooked. I'm a sucker for those. I mean, give me a chest and a little bit of rolling, and I'm there. I have collected so far the common, the rare, and the epic medallion. For some reason, those last two do not want to come my way, but hopefully by the end of the campaign, I'm able to gather those two as well.
There's also like valuable ARV token drops. I mean, there's one of the rarest ARV token drop is like 1,000 ARV, which is not minor. Already we have dropped like 8 of those, I think. They're pretty rare, of course, but there's also bundles of 50 ARV and 10 ARV and 100 ARV. And yeah, we've distributed so far about like almost 45,000 or so to players for the initiative. There's also the very rare cosmetic NFTs that are like these wings that maybe you've seen. That are only limited for this event. Few people have got them as well. So there's a ton of things to try. I mean, that's the idea.
Yeah, definitely. So far from the people that we've shared our link with, one person has gotten 10 ARP. So we're still waiting to see who gets that 1,000 ARP from our community. But man, this honestly brings a refreshing twist to it because you don't know what you're going to get, but you're going to get something. You're going to walk out with something valuable that's going to help you along the way. And my next question, you sort of already answered it. I was going to ask you, like, where should gamers, investors, and speculators sort of pay their attention to? But I think that's a very easy thing to answer. You focus on the New Frontiers quest. Go ahead and sign up and make sure that you finish those trees, because if you want to participate in phase 2 and phase 3, I mean, this seems like this is the best way to get started. So that's really awesome.
Absolutely. And everything else is free to try. So everybody can try it and get stuff from it and see the first looks of the game and how things are actually shaping. So yeah.
I have a question specifically about Treasure. Your guys' I mean, it's no secret. Your website shows that you guys are powered by Treasure. Obviously, you're on Arbitrium. Treasure is very friendly with Arbitrium. That's like a whole world there. What is the difference for you guys with being powered by Treasure? Like, what does that practically look like and mean versus just being like, hey, we're building on Arbitrium?
I mean, Treasure is starting to be nowadays one of the main, let's say, gaming arms of Arbitrium, because Arbitrium is, of course, like an all-purpose chain. Heavily, I mean, it's present in all forms, right? But it needs a really strong gaming arm because it's growing, and Treasure is taking care of that side. And gaming, they help games in several ways. They're like one of our main partners in that sense. They sort of fulfill the role of a publisher. Let's say if you can compare it with the Web2 side, where they help you with user acquisition, design, and all those things, right? And Treasure are essentially our main partners within Arbitrium, which in a way is like now kind of Arbitrium's gaming arm. Right. So that's like the main thing. So everything is like linked together in a way in different steps.
It's a giant web. I know Treasure have, what is that phrase? That the infinity chains that like they're
they're building that, and we will be part of that as well. To me, the future involves that, like more multi-chain approaches and of course seamless integration of the blockchain for the end user. That to me, users will in 10 years from now won't even know what's happening in terms of blockchain. They will just access the benefits of the technology, just as how you use the internet today. You don't know what the hell's going on behind the servers or whatever is going on. You just use the damn thing and enjoy the fact that we're able to talk 12 miles away in live video. That's pretty much what blockchain will be, and that Treasure is starting to go to shape that, at least to some degree. So
cool. Yeah,
and we're part of that.
We have Treasure coming on the podcast early next week too. So that
Awesome.
just lined up really well with you guys. Cool. I think that's rad. I actually just was talking to somebody, a game that asked me like in a private conversation like 2 days ago, hey, we're thinking about moving to Arbitrium. What do you think about that? What does that look like? And I think there's a lot of attention to cool games, especially like indie studios. It's becoming a hub
and a ton of opportunity. I mean, lately, 200 million fund was approved for new gaming studios and gaming for the next 2 years, I think, or something along those lines, to propel gaming and Arbitrium. Like Arbitrium is like really taking the gaming side seriously. And well, there's an opportunity in that. If you're an indie studio or a new developer, there's access to funding if you're a promising project, and there's opportunity. That's one of the things that Web3 also does. There's opportunity for indie studios to really create a game, because it's easier to access to funds and to fundraise in different manners, right? And they should try to get access to those benefits in that sense. And Arbitrium is providing them. Very strong.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Easy win for you guys. Cool. So if I'm listening to this episode right now, it is really clear that, dude, I got to get in and I got to start completing these RPG quests. What is the best way, like following this episode? I just finished this episode. I'm turning it off. I want to go explore the Beacon ecosystem. Where should I go right now?
I mean, honestly, one of the best ways is just head to our Twitter. Everything is there, like the links there, like on the front pinned, everything. You can just like click the link and begin your quest. And if not, you just go to nfq.thebeacon.gg, which is the New Frontiers quest short, and that will start the app, and you can just try it right away. And that's the best way to see. And then Twitter and our Discord, we have everything about the project, lore and more in-depth information if you want to dive deeper.
Beautiful. Awesome. And we have links wherever you're listening. There will be links that you can just click and go straight to their Twitter and straight to those quests if you want to get started. Thank you so much for joining us, Diego. This has been a blast. I cannot wait to see you guys conquer this space.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it a lot. And this was a very fun conversation.
We'll see you next time on 100X.